Hello, everybody, and welcome back into another post-game show here on the Hockey Writers YouTube channel. And we're covering the New York Rangers Tampa Bay Lightning series here. And I've got Jim Bay and Rachel Nones coming back here after we did our preview show. Came out this morning. We got game one in the books now, and it ended 6-2. New York Rangers kind of ran over the Lightning in this game, and maybe kind of expected because of the rest and kind of maybe the rest of that Tampa Bay Lightning. But this was a pretty fun game, even though it was 6-2. It was pretty fast paced. Lots of scoring from one side at least. You had Filip Chytil. We talked about him. We'll talk about him a bit here. Had a couple goals. You had Zibanejad score again. We had Stamkos scoring. We had a lot of the stars come to play in this game, especially on the Rangers side. So I'll start with you, Rachel. What did you think about this game? What were your kind of initial takeaways after this one?
So definitely I thought that the Rangers played better as the game went on itself. Their first power play chance that they had wasn't that great. That was pretty underwhelming, especially when their power play is so good at home. But obviously with them scoring so quick into periods and even scoring quick into the game like Chris Kreider did, that's a really good sign for them. And I don't want to get too carried away since it was a home game for them and we know how well they play at home. But it was a really good sign. I thought that they were really opportunistic. Tampa's not going to give them many chances. So you do have to take advantage of those when you get them. They had some issues with covering Tampa players and leaving them wide open, which is kind of what you saw in the Steven Stamkos goal. And definitely they had trouble keeping a lead, but once that they established that 2-goal lead, they were able just to kind of run with it, which is exactly what you want to see. But they were definitely shooting what you want to see. That's really the key to it. Since they have so much talent and the kid line's just really playing well, that's just going to be something that they have to keep up with.
Yeah, kid line was really good. We'll talk a bit about them in a sec. But Jim, what do you think about this game from the Tampa Bay Lightning side? Came out a bit flat, even though they had quite a few chances throughout the game. But what do you think about the Lightning's play in game one?
Not too much. They didn't really, play all that well. I think the impressive, the good thing that they did was when they were down 1-0 and then they were down 2-1, they did come back. Chytil's 2 goals. They gave the Rangers a 2-goal lead, I think was really tough for them. They just didn't play very well. They did not take care of the puck. They left way too many guys open. They looked maybe a little lost on defense. And you got to give the Rangers, credit. They swarmed, they were moved, they were active, and, Tampa Bay, looked lost. So, that could be the effect of not playing a meaningful game in 8 or 9 days. We'll see. We know they bounce back well, and I would expect them to do that on Friday night.
Yeah, they definitely do bounce back. 18 straight games that they've come back and won this next game after losing. So we'll see if they can keep that streak alive for sure.
And they did it twice in Toronto, in the Toronto series too. They had 2 pretty bad losses to Toronto and bounced back in a big way from both of those games. And then, of course, eventually the series. So, that would be the expectation for this team going forward. We'll just have to see whether or not it happens.
Yeah, for sure. Rachel, we talked about the kid line. They came to play in this game. They were I would say probably the best line that the Rangers had throughout the game. They hemmed the Lightning in quite a few times. What do you think about their play in game one?
Obviously, Filip Chytil's goals, those are huge, but you got to kind of look at how those goals are coming about. Alexis Lafreniere's having a really good playoff round. So that's something that's really exciting to see. I know obviously he didn't start out as hot as many Ranger fans would have hoped for, but I think that you can't be unhappy with the progress that he's making. This is the most crucial time of all for a player to show up, and he's really looking good and noticeable, and he is helping out Chytil. And it's not really out of the blue that Filip Chytil is playing so well. This is a guy that the Rangers needed, going down the pipeline and things like that, they had a lot of faith in him that he would work into a center role. So he just had some unfortunate injuries a couple seasons, and they just came at the worst time. So it's not really a surprise that he's starting to do well. It's perfect timing, but it's not really a surprise since that was kind of the goal for him anyway, to really do well. But I mean, even Keandre Miller's passing and things like that. So even though, the kid line is producing, the other kids are doing well too, especially the ones on defense. So they're just huge. You need that depth, obviously. You have a lot of star power in the first two lines, and to have that next immediate line do really well, that's going to be key for the Rangers.
And an extension of that is Artemi Panarin, who had a couple points in this game, but he hasn't been really very good throughout the playoffs. And how big is that if Panarin can actually be a factor in this series?
So Panarin's definitely a player who means a lot to the organization. His teammates really care about him, and getting him going is really key. So like you mentioned, he has been struggling a little bit. You can kind of see that they're sticking more guys on top of him and things like that. So, just as long as he's going, I think everything else falls into place. It's Artemi Panarin. So, his struggles really aren't as much, as debilitating as other players maybe, but it's just because they have more guys on him, and they know the threat that he is. So, when he is getting those chances, he does make the most of it. And he had a pretty good game today.
Yeah. I mean, overshadowed. You got Zibanejad scoring again. You got, and he's been really good too. I don't know, 3 chances on that power play. He was able to get one-timers away. I mean, Lightning's going to have to do a bit better on covering him on the power play. He shouldn't be allowed to do that. I don't know how many times. Eventually, he was going to put one in.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So let's move to the goaltending, which is a big storyline coming into this game. 2 Russian superstars basically going against each other. Jim, Vasilevsky, I mean, you can't really fault him on a lot of the goals. A lot of them were really good chances that probably were all rated as high danger. So, I mean, you can't really fault him for letting him in, but, after only allowing 3 goals over the whole series last time, he allowed 6 in one game. Are you worried about his play, or is this just, he'll be able to bounce back like he always does?
No, I'm not worried. Again, this is very similar to what happened in Toronto. The defense didn't play that well in front of them. We saw that in the first goal, when they coughed up the puck and had a 2-on-1 and Kreider was, basically all alone. You're not going to, have NHL players miss that kind of shot too often. Chytil's goals were excellent. The Vetrano goal in the slot, they shouldn't be getting those shots if you're playing good defense. So, I think the Panarin goal, he would have liked to have stopped. I think he thought he could have had that one. I think at that point, frustration was kind of mounting, but he bounces back well. We've seen it with him. We've seen it with the Lightning. And I think the expectation would be again for, that, to happen again in game 2.
Yeah. And then on the other side, Igor Shesterkin, he was amazing in this game. He was probably, definitely the better goaltender. Made that one sequence, he made like 3 or 4 different saves, although Trouba did block one of them. Rachel, what do you think about Shesterkin's game? Could he get in the Lightning's heads throughout this series? I mean, he was really good, like we mentioned, in the regular season. What did you think about him?
Yeah, he looked great tonight. It's not really too different than what we're used to seeing from him, to be honest. So it's just great to see that he's able to keep the momentum going with that. I think that he got a lot of confidence from that Carolina series. And I think just all the experience that he's getting so quick is just really helping him. I think, obviously going back to the regular season and things like that, and just having faced them in the regular season 3 games and the results of that, he can lean on that as well. But I mean, we saw some more defensive coverage from the offense today. We saw Frank Vatrano with a really good chance. Kind of, he was able to snub it from the Tampa player and things like that. So, I mean, that's just helping Igor. Again, when they have everybody chipping in, his job's a lot more easier. And he's a great goaltender. So any hope that he's going to get is going to help immensely more.
Yeah, and you got that chant, Igor's better throughout throughout the game too. So that was pretty cool to hear. Was that a new chant, or is that was that during the regular season too?
I think that's a new chant. Usually they don't go for like the opposing goaltender, which obviously Igor's been subject to. I think that just given the score and given the opponent, we're really excited. That's not something I would partake in, but yeah, I mean, I would just rather stick to like an Igor chant, but whatever works.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big thing. I know two Russian goaltenders going against each other, so I think that adds to it.
Yeah.
So it's going to be fun to see how each kind of, because right now Shesterkin's got the upper hand. We'll see if Vasilevsky can take it back in game 2. Now, looking ahead to game 2, Jim, what does the Lightning have to do better to kind of bring this back and get this back to be a competitive series?
Well, they have to do what they did in the Florida series. They need to play much better defense. They need to take passing lanes away from the Rangers. You mentioned the Zibanejad one-timers, and Chytil. You can't let them have that many opportunities in those kind of situations. When they were successful against, Toronto and Austin Matthews and all of them, that's what they did. And for 4 games, they were that way with Florida. So, they have to get back with, they have to take better care of the puck too. Mm-hmm. 18 seconds into the game, you're coughing up the puck. And that happened a lot over the course of the game. That's very, un-Tampa-like. That may be due to the lack of playing. But they need to shore that up and shore it up very quickly if they're going to have a chance in game 2.
Yeah, and we saw some more not as much physical play throughout the game, but right at the end there, I wonder if that's going to go into game 2 because there was a bit of a scuffle with the fourth lines in the final 2-3 minutes. So we'll see if that becomes a factor as well. Rachel, what do you think the Rangers? I mean, adjustments are going to be made on John Cooper's side. He always seems to be able to adjust. What do the Rangers have to do to make that it's not going to be an adjustment enough to make them not look as good?
I think just playing the way that they came out tonight. I mean, they know that they can play a game that's going to be Tampa. So just keeping it simple, just keep shooting. The penalty kill is going to be huge. They have a really good penalty kill. They have some guys that are really good on that. The weird thing with the Rangers is that they do perform better when they are down in this series. So having this lead, I'm not sure that they themselves. The players know it. The fans can see that for whatever reason, the Rangers play better when they're down and their backs are against the wall. So at this point, with just how they came out, I don't really know if they still have like that kind of underdog like image to them anymore. Just given the score and things like that and how quickly they were able to, capitalize on chances. So I just think that they gotta just keep it simple and do what they did today. I mean, they weren't too flashy with it or anything. Mm-hmm. They had a lot of quick passing and they were quick on their feet and things like that. They weren't just planted and just passing all over. We saw a little bit of that, but it wasn't anything too crazy. I think they just got to stay quick and just keep the puck possession up.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? That's a good point because they haven't had, they've lost game 1 in both the first 2 series. So they've been down in most series. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do when they're in control of a series to start. So that's going to be interesting to watch. All right. So thanks, Jim. Thanks, Rachel, for coming on Postgame. We'll talk to everyone after game 2 and see if this is going to be a tie or Rangers up 2-0 going into Tampa. So we'll see you then. Thanks for watching, and make sure you're hitting like on our videos here, and look out for the next post-game show after game 2.